Hey, everybody, it's Eugene Driscoll of valleyindy.org. Welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast, I guess. Going to stream tonight's Derby boat public hearing. They got a public hearing on the preliminary budget in Derby. Meeting's going to start any second. I apologize for being late. I couldn't get the Zoom browser to come up for some reason. Meeting has not quite begun yet. If you want to attend the meeting, go to the City of Derby website, meeting calendar, find today's date and join the meeting that way. If you're leaving comments or anything like that during this meeting or on this page, Valley Indy Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, 3 places where this is going, your comments won't be seen or heard. Just keep that in mind. If you want to be on the record, you need to actually join the Zoom client and get in there, which is available on the City of Derby website. And I posted it earlier today on Facebook.com, Valley Independent Sentinel. So the meeting's going to begin any second. It'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance, of course. Could be a long meeting. The meeting, April 18th, went on for 3 hours. I played some clips earlier today to give you an idea of where the stress points, I guess, are in this discussion about the proposed Derby budget. I'm in receipt of some emails showing some acrimony between the chairman of the tax board and Walt Mayhew, the mayor's chief of staff. Don't know whether that'll come into play tonight. But in general, budget totals, current budget is $48.3 million. The budget, if they adopted it right now, would be $47.5 million, 0.4 mill rate decrease. Again, if you go to the City of Derby website, or if you have your Zoom app right now, go to 833-5934-8842. I'll put that in the chat if you actually want to weigh in and share your comments on this budget. Put it down here. If you have the Zoom client, here's the meeting code. So that's that right there. Other highlights of this budget. Derby Schools originally asked for a 4.29% increase to their funding on top of their $19.1 million budget. The preliminary budget, the bottom line, I go by bottom lines. What was approved last year, total school budget was $19.1 million. Bottom line, what's being proposed, that's a combination of state and Derby funds, is $19.3 million, a 1% increase. Somebody's got to tell whoever that is to change their name. Change your name. I wish they could hear me. They cannot.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? Long time no see. Doc.
It's never a good idea to use your phone number.
How you doing,
Zoom.
sir?
Oh, great, thanks.
I just want to say one thing, Doc, and I'll say it in public. I did throw a strike at Little League.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I got nervous. That was the most nerve-wracking thing.
Yeah.
To throw a pitch. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was a good time, though.
Yeah, it is. That those kids that I spoke to, I got to find Donovan. His responses were just off the chart.
And if anybody, if you want to comment along or ask me questions, feel free to do so. Just keep in mind, I'm in the Zoom meeting. You see my name up there, but I'm actually using StreamYard to bring this to you. So if you have any questions or if you want to go to the City of Derby website, you can look through the proposed budget yourself. Let me see if I can grab a link and put it in the chat. Also, I just ordered some Dominoes. My wife's working late.
I did. I thought like an hour or so. Motioned to me.
Yep, I did.
Kids.
I was like, hey,
they're like yelling. Oh, it's my daughter.
I saw you popping in a big
please, next week is a great give. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, please consider donating to the Valley Indy.
Except for my two kids who work
there. Here. We're going to raise $10,000 in 36 hours.
Hey, keep them working.
I know. You're right.
Well, things at Bigelow. You guys doing good?
We're doing good. Thank you for
that
asking.
link I tried.
Excellent, excellent.
Sorry, having a little
All right,
technical
Mark,
difficulty.
it is 6:03.
Okay, here
Think
we
we got
go.
enough people?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because it keeps moving around, but I would say probably get started and we can see
right.
where it needs to roll.
All right, I'm gonna call to order at,
This meeting is being recorded.
we'll shoot for 6:03. Call to order and we'll do Pledge of Allegiance. They'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
flag
of the United
of the
States of
United
America,
States
and
and
to the republic
to
which stands
for which stands
Hands,
nation
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible.
liberty, and
Liberty.
justice for all.
justice for all.
All right. Do a roll call, please.
Mr. Alberta,
Present.
Mr. Carloni,
Present.
Mr. Roche,
Present.
Mr. Gray,
Present.
Ms. Mancini Wright,
Present.
Sorzetti,
Present.
Ms. Patel. Ms. Patel. See her on here. Ms. Pertoso. Mr. Santos,
Present.
thank you, and Ms. Simmons Derby. Ms. Simmons Derby.
Got 7?
Yes, you do.
All right, let's have all right, we are going to go to the public portion. Public portion, public hearing on the 2023-24 preliminary budget adopted on April 18th, 2023. I'm gonna open it up to the public. If you could
Mr. Mayor?
please keep,
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, please remind them to state their name and address.
yep, absolutely, Louise, thank you. So adopted on April 18th, 2023, if you can keep it to 3 minutes, please, so we can move things forward, try to get all your information in there. If you can state your name and address for the public record, and then we will proceed. So anybody from the public, please say hi.
Jim,
Jim, go for it, brother, start it.
thank you so much. So I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak this evening, and then also I just want to thank everybody, and I'll be less than 3 minutes, but I want to thank everybody for their
Jeez.
Jim
Oh,
Gilday, name and address, please, sir.
11 Academy Hill Road, Derby, Connecticut. I'm sorry, Louise, this is my first time I've ever spoken in public.
Not Jim, thank you.
You're welcome. So again, I just want to thank everyone really for your service. You know, I have a great deal of respect for people who donate their time, people who volunteer their time, and I'm very grateful. I do just want to say that this year we did ask for $20 million, a little bit more. And so far, and again, the city has, and the recommended budget is close to $200,000. And the Alliance District funds, we're going to get about $400,000 more. So that leaves us just a little bit over $200,000, really short from what we've asked for, and where we're at now. And I would just tell you that, you know, it is a school system that is doing good things. In the very near recent history, in the past, we've seen our elementary schools be named schools of distinction. We've seen our middle school get reappointed for the Commissioner Network. We've seen our middle school principal be the principal of the year in the state of Connecticut. We've seen increased test scores. And so it's really a school system with an amazing amount of staff and who just come to work every day. And we are close to what we need to really just move the ball forward. So again, I do respect the work that everybody does. I love this town, and I certainly love the positive things that are occurring in our school system. And so we just ask that we try to bridge the gap of what we're short and help us to continue the good work. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public? Kind of surprised if nobody else is talking here.
Well, I was gonna let everybody else go first, but I guess.
There you
I'll
go, Karen.
Hi. Karen Kennison's, 25 John Street, Derby, Connecticut. I thank you all, as Mr. Gilday said, for all of the time, the hours that you put in, the effort. And I hope that you get a raise next year. But if that doesn't happen, if it's not within the budget, I thank you anyways. As far as the education budget, I think that at the very least, you need to be addressing the salaried increases that are in that budget. And what you're proposing now, I do not believe it does cover. Granted, their numbers are going down as far as students, but that makes it even more challenging to give them a quality education. So we certainly should not be jeopardizing those lesser number of students by virtue of cutting their budget. And one question I ask every year during budget time is, how much are you funding the pension? At what level is the pension fund currently covered? The last time I got an answer was back when Mr. Taylor was there, which was prior to Agatha even being a vision in anybody's eyes, and that was at 70%. Since that time, we've put in $4 million more, so I'm hoping that it's at 100%, maybe with this budget, but I would like to at least get an answer on that. The third thing that my concern is that you have not increased the utilities. And yet, even it was stated by Nancy at the Alderman's meeting that the utilities are going up, which my personal budget certainly reflects. I think that we need to be giving a little bit more there rather than shortchanging ourselves and having to deal with it at the end of the year. Speaking of things that we might have to deal with at the end of the year, you have really underfunded anything under capital. There's nothing for police cars. There's nothing for the fire department. There's so many things in the city that need to be repaired that are not within this budget. There's no funding whatsoever for capital. And I think that we're trying to keep the taxes down, which I appreciate, but it's short-minded to do that and then have to pay twice as much later when we're rushing to cover things like we did with the police department cars. So I'd ask that you would look at the capital and try to address that. And just don't shortchange things trying to bring the numbers in low because it's an election year. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, Laura Harris.
How you doing, Laura? Name and
I'm
address for the
fine.
record, please.
Yes, Laura Harris, 511 Roosevelt Drive, Derby, Connecticut. I would just like to echo Mr. Gilday's comments. If you would reconsider giving us the 232 million. Hold on,
Million.
I'm getting it all mixed up. 232,252.
Okay.
I can't even read my own writing here. Please reconsider that for the Derby schools. I also would like to ask a question on the Yankee Gas and Electric that Mrs. Kamisas just brought up. Everything else is going up, not just with our own schools, everybody's house. So I think that needs to be up. Those two bills, Yankee Gas and Electric. I also had a question on, I think it's number 5100 Park and Rec. I was happy to see some of the maintenance money being put into that building. And a question on animal control. Who do we call for animal control? A couple of citizens asked me, do we go with the Woodbridge?
They go to the police department and then to Shelton. Shelton handles all our
Shelton?
animal control.
Okay,
We've
good to
been doing
know.
that for the
Thank
last
you.
10 years. Yes,
Sean, I thought we were at Woodbridge at one time.
we were.
Also, I had a question on line 110-0110, which is a grant rider. That's gonna be just for the city of Derby, correct? And it's part-time? How
Yes.
many hours is that? Is that weekly or monthly, or how's that working?
I think or Nancy would know. I don't know if it's 20.
It's on a contract basis. It's
Yes.
paid by the work that she does on the grants themselves.
Okay, and somebody's in that position now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also on number 390-0392, it's a payroll outsource fee. Can
That's
you
the cost.
educate me on that, please?
That's the
What's
cost of
that
our
for?
payroll service.
The payroll service you use?
We outsource, correct.
The payroll service.
It's big. I mean,
I couldn't hear.
ask
what
your
you said.
questions. I mean, this is not a question answer, but if you put your questions out there, we'll get them answered for you.
Okay. Thank you. I could email you then. I have one more.
Okay.
Thanks for your time, and thank you all the tax board members for your time serving.
Thank you, Laura. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public?
Sarah Wadomski, 95 Academy Hill Road.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. I have just a couple of concerns. It was on the revenue side. It was reported to MFAC last week that the collection rate on the property taxes is at 97%, and this 610-6100, I believe, assumes a 99% collection. So, based on past year's data, a 99% collection rate here would be overinflating the income. And I just have general concerns that there are other areas of income that are overinflated, and on the expense side, that there are various items that are underestimated. And I think, Ms. Kemisy's brought up, a few of them: capital, utilities, sanitation, insurance, bonded debt. So I really, take a look and, see, are we overestimating one and underestimating the other? And I would, recommend or consider keeping the public hearing open for more than just today, because there's certainly questions that come about listening to other people's comments and, the discussions you will have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else from the public? Mr. Kurtica.
Hi, Mayor. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good, sir. Good, sir. Yes.
George Kurtica, 46 Mohawk Avenue there. I just want to thank everybody, like Mr. Gilday, for serving. I served on the tax board many years ago, so I know how it is.
They had wooden nickels back then, right, George?
Yeah, it was. So, so I'm just looking for, our school board, the money, $235,000. Anything more than $1. We have, Dr. Conway could probably correct me if he needs to, but I think we're anticipating an additional 150 kids into our school system, which needs additional staffing. So anything that the tax board can give us to alleviate this increase, and I anticipate the increase is going to be for a while. I don't know if you remember, several years ago, UConn did a study about increasing increase in attendance for the schools, and all the school districts around us were going down, and we're anticipated to go up. So nobody thought, really, what's going on? Does UConn know what they're talking about? But I would say must have, because we got about 150 more kids than we anticipated were coming in. So anything that the tax board can do to help the school board, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public?
Mr. Mayor, Gary Parker.
How you doing, sir? Go for it. Name and
Good,
address.
thank you. Gary Parker, 38 North Cole Lane, Ansonia. I serve as the fire commissioner for the city of Derby. First of all, thank you to all the tax board members and everyone who worked on this budget. I don't envy that job. I'd much rather be fighting a fire. But there's a couple comments that I would like to make, and I've made them before, but I feel it important enough that it should be reiterated now. First, for the operating budget, thank you for what you basically you have granted what we asked for in the operating budget, and I thank you for that. But I feel very strongly that between the working balance and the special working balance, whichever, I just implore you to keep enough there as a backstop. This with the fire department and just like the other departments in the city, we're charged with keeping our equipment, and we're trying to keep it longer. We're stretching out from 20 to 25 years to now 25 to 30 years. That's not an easy task, and it takes a lot. It takes money to do that. And so we have the equipment maintenance budget in the fire department. The trends that I'm looking at, I'm not an economist, but it doesn't look like it's going to get much better anytime soon. And it's not good out there right now. So I just I would just implore you to look at where there might be backstops, and that we can if we need to, we as a city, I'm talking about, have something to fall back to, so that we don't get stuck with a problem we can't fix. So I thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public? Hearing none.
Hey, Mayor, oh, go ahead. Someone go first.
Oh, Pastor Dennis.
God bless everyone.
God bless you, brother.
I'll cut in real quick. I just want to give everybody thanks for everything you're doing.
Name and address.
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
Pastor, can you name and address, please?
Pastor at New Beginnings Church, 156 Smith Street. I wanted to give everybody thanks and kudos. I also would rather be pastoring than doing what you guys are doing. Want to give thanks also to the invitation that we received from the last meeting we had for the AD position at the high school. I know a lot of parents were involved. There was a lot of folks at the meeting, and everyone was invited. So I'm hoping there's a lot of us in this meeting. This is my first meeting as far as taxation is concerned. And I am also in support of any help the school can get. But I'm also going to offer myself in any way we can help as a church, help in reaching out to the community, reaching out to our members, anything, the Hispanic community, anything we can do to help out in this area. I know it's a lot of work and it's not easy, but if there's anything we can do to reach out to the community, so maybe to have more people be on these meetings, or anything, communication, whatever it may be. I want to offer our services as pastors and as a church in the community. And I thank everyone for letting us be on this Zoom meeting here. Appreciate it.
Pastor, thank you very much. And also, just to let you know, we just hired a new clerk in the clerk's office that speaks Spanish. So make sure you let your congregation know that it's very friendly to come in here, and there's somebody who can speak Spanish to them. So I was trying to get over there to talk to you, but I let Father Carlos know too. So knowing that we're 20% Hispanic in the city of Derby,
yes,
one of my major priorities, and so let your congregation know they come in there to really speak to people in there.
That's a blessing. It is a blessing. We send a lot of folks out there to get married and whatnot. It's been situations where I have to go translate, but that is a blessing. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Tara, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yep, go ahead. Tara, name and address, please.
Tara Hyder, 51 Franklin Avenue, Derby. I just want to start off by thanking this board. I've not been on the tax board, but I've been on other boards, and I do appreciate all the time, efforts, and I can appreciate all the work that you put into this whole process. I would like to address the education budget. This year has been particularly stressful to observe. At a recent meeting about a month ago, Chief of Staff has suggested that because we're an educational alliance district, we're deterring the development and the betterment of the city of Derby, and using this designation as a punishment to our children by not fully funding what the district is asking for in their education budget. Being an alliance district allows the Board of Education to access grant funding to enhance and supplement the school budget and to help our children's education. Where the hypocrisy lies is we're also on the list of top 25 most distressed municipalities, and the administration uses all of those grants afforded to them because of this designation and uses those improvements for things such as campaign rhetoric. And this administration really should focus on improving our housing policy and economic development, as the distressed municipality criteria includes per capita income, declining rate of job creation, and per capita income adjusted equalized net grand list, which are all influenced by administration. My point being, back to the education budget, maybe if the focus was on housing policy and practices and actual economic development and not just paving Main Street, we would not be a distressed municipality or alliance district. And having said that, I ask that the tax board consider the request made by our Board of Education and Superintendent to fully fund their education budget. And please keep pushing back against what is happening in City Hall. And please keep pushing back on behalf of our children and doing what is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%, that we're moving things forward. Anybody else from the public like to speak?
My name is Mark Garfal. I'm the town clerk.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to.
Address, please. Louise is going to yell at me.
95 Academy Hill Road and 1 Elizabeth Street. Some weeks I'm here more than on Academy Hill, but most weeks. But just want to clarify the previous comment that was made regarding the friendliness of the town clerk's office. The town clerk's office, at least in the 10 years that I'm in my 10th year as town clerk, the town clerk's office has always been friendly and accommodating. It's not just because of a new hire in the last month or so. We have a long history of accommodating and helping each and every customer, regardless of their language, their sexual orientation, their ethnicity, and so forth. We treat everybody from both parties the same, and I challenge anybody to say different on that. And that's with all including the previous Spanish-speaking folks that we've had in the office as well. We accommodate and do that way above and beyond what should be expected.
Agreed, 100%.
Thank you, Pastor. So I do want to speak though on the budget. In particular, in general, I would like to thank the board for its efforts. The process did get started late. So I encourage your scrutiny on a whole bunch of things, especially regarding the income. It's the least talked about part of the budget, but I encourage your tenacity to make sure that accuracy rules the day. In particular, line item 6,686,807, which is town clerk receivables, it's being increased $100,000 this year, and from 300 to 400,000. And I just caution to not, we can't predict what the income is going to be. It depends on a whole bunch of things. How many people want birth certificates, how many properties transfer. There are things that are outside of our hand. We had an extraordinary year last year based on the housing market. We can't guarantee that that's going to be the case every year. And the trending that is going on now would indicate that in this current year that we're in, it's not going to probably reach 400,000. So I just caution you on that. The other areas that certainly have not been talked about, so I just raised them so that hopefully there's just some clarity. So the insurance, liability insurance has gone down 180,000 from last year's budget, which is a significant amount and certainly is worthy of a question and an answer, as well as the health care benefits. Both the city side and the Board of Education side, it's almost $2 million, $1.8 million less. And the workers' comp is down by 100,000 as well. So just please be sure that those are accurate numbers, just to satisfy the taxpayers so that this budget is in fact on track. And it's only because I've not heard those questions asked or answered. The other area is the miscellaneous capital that's been raised by others, so I won't belabor it, but it's $140,000 less than previous year's budget. So I think that that's, an area, if we don't maintain that capital, we had set many years ago, capital planning standards in place with respect to vehicle replacement in both public works, the police department and the fire department. And we're way behind on that. So just encourage some thought on that. Other areas, again, that were not addressed was $800,000 less in principal and interest on bond indebtedness, and that and a large increase for sewer debt. So just please, I would ask you to ask those or press those points just to make sure that things are. Also, I would advocate an increase from what is appropriate for the cultural events. That budget was at 15,000 for many years, and for some reason it was cut with no reason in the last 2 years. So I would encourage you to consider to put some more funding in there for that. And finally,
You're getting close to 3 minutes, Mark, so keep going.
I'm almost done. I want to just thank the board for its steadfastness and support of this office and making sure that the and those who supported us in filling the vacant position in our office. So with that, thank you for your service to the city and look forward to working with you on this project tonight.
Absolutely. You guys are doing a great job. Thanks, Mark.
Anybody
else from?
Just a quick note. I think there are some people waiting to sign on. I'm getting emails that they're not
There's
getting.
one person, Mr. Mayhew must have got
That's fine.
kicked out and he's coming back in. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak? Anybody else from the public like to speak? Anybody else from the public who would like to speak?
Can I get a second time around? Karen Kemises, 25 John Street, to just.
Karen, go right ahead.
One other question that I need to ask is that you're not getting the funding for the parking garage. I watched the news in New York City where the garage just crumbled and crashed down. And being that I took minutes some 10 years ago and it was in very bad shape back then. It could not have improved over these 10 years. So I hope that beyond just the capital projects, that we are also looking at trying to fund that. Further, I know that we talk about ARPA all the time, and you will say that it's not part of the operating budget, which is true, but you have earmarked for ARPA many things that you bought the ambulance, you've done other things, you keep saying, we'll use ARPA. Can we please have some sort of accounting of ARPA, how much it is and how much is left and what can be used so that it supports this budget without impacting the mill rate? Thank you.
Absolutely. And we got that. Thank you, Karen. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public? Third and last call. There we go. I'm going to close number 4, public portion. We're going to go number 5, discussion review or modified 2023-24 preliminary budget adopted April 18th. Mark, can you put up the budget on there, please? And
Okay, sorry, it was just,
what's the privilege of the board? Do you want to go line by line again per department, or do you want to go right to the end, approve and disapprove? Roberto?
We want to, well, I know that I've speak on behalf of the board that in listening to some of the questions that were asked tonight and trying to get some answers, because all I heard was questions being asked and no answers being answered. I know I don't want to conclude in finalizing the budget tonight. I want to have time to review all the questions that were asked and the boat members to provide feedback with respect to allotted time to really review it.
So you just want to push this off for another day, or do you want to do anything tonight?
Suggest if Louise can do a roll call and we'll take it from there.
Well, and this roll call is to extend it, just so I can put it in the minutes?
Yes, not for tonight.
Okay. Mr. Alberta?
No.
No?
No.
Mr. Carloni?
I'll vote to extend it to a later date.
Mr. Roche?
I vote to extend it.
Mr. Gray?
yes.
Mancini, right?
Yes.
All right, hang on. Louise, can I get a second on that, Roberto? Before we take this vote, I'm sorry. So Roberto's was,
Didn't know it was a
Extended.
motion, I'm sorry.
the motion was to extend this, so can I get a second, please?
I'll second it. Jennifer?
Okay, so start it again. Sorry, Louise.
Start all over?
Yes, please.
Mr. Alberta?
No.
Mr. Carloni?
Yes,
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Ms. Mancini, right?
Yes.
Ms. Orazzetti?
Yes.
Has anyone else come into the meeting since we started? Ms.
Yes,
Patel?
I did. Yes, Patel.
Okay, thank you, Pahini. You wish to vote yes?
Yes.
Bertoso? No. Mr. Santos?
Yes,
Did Ms. Simmons Derby come in? No. Okay. So you have 7 yes and 1 no. The
Okay.
majority rule.
All right, so I have a motion to adjourn?
is
I do
there
have
any,
a question. We put a list
Do I have a
of,
motion? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Still have a question.
You already pushed this off, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
we still got new business to deal with on the agenda?
We have discussion, we have adoption, and now we're adjournment. So number 6, adopt it.
What agenda are we using? Because I see the one. Is there anything for
I got
today?
April 24th, so discussion review, you guys pushed it off. Number 6, adopt the final budget mill rate. And now you guys pushed it, so. What do you have, Roberto?
That's the only one that I saw that was posted on there.
Yeah,
I'm sure, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Chair, I'm sharing the posted agenda.
right.
So
So
perhaps,
you discussed, you pushed it off. So what do you want to talk about?
Adoption, or we're putting off the discussion?
Well, you guys pushed the discussion off. Number 5, I asked that and you just pushed it off. Or am I, Jen, like you, not understanding something here? So you tell me. But that's what was the motion.
Discuss and review.
I thought it was number 6 that we were pushing off the adoption. I thought we were still gonna have discussion.
You know, I
But
went to number 5, I went to discussion, review, and modify, and the board went 7-1 to push it out. So now I'm going for adjournment. So you had questions, and I guess I don't. Yeah, I mean, you're confusing me, Jen, now. I know you're confused a lot, but you're confusing me now. So what do you need?
Well, I will follow our chairman. He said to put it off, and so I must be misunderstanding. I'll follow that.
All right, so we can't adopt it because you already pushed it off, so we're not discussing it. So number 6 was adoption, so we're not doing that. So number 7 is adjournment. So in the motion to adjourn.
Got a motion here.
I second it.
All right,
Sorry,
all in favor?
I didn't get who made the motion.
Alberta.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And who seconded it?
I did, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, have a good night.
it's 6:40 PM. Okay. Weird.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. That was the Derby Board of Apportionment and Taxation. That was an unusual ending for a government meeting. I don't think I've seen that before. Just trying to stop sharing this. All right, so no budget adopted. They were supposed to meet. They had a public hearing. We had 10 members of. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see there's comments out there. Hold on, I apologize. I was riveted. So the purpose of the meeting, they had a public hearing on the preliminary budget, which is also a proposed budget. The way it works in Derby, the tax board sets the bottom line, revenue, expenses, and then sets a mill rate. They adopted their preliminary budget last week. Tonight was a public hearing on it. We heard 10 people speak. Karen Chemesis spoke twice. That was the total participation of the public, mostly public officials. A couple of school board members spoke. At least 3. Mark Garofalo, the town clerk, spoke. And then at the very end, you had, I believe it was Roberto Santos, saying that there were some questions asked that they want answered. They want to take a little more time to review the budget before adopting a final budget. I think the mayor obviously was coming into this meeting thinking there would be a public hearing and then they would switch and adopt a final budget tonight, but that didn't happen. The only thing that I was confused about, and I don't know the answer to this, so they went through the agenda. Let me see if I can bring up the agenda real fast. Bear with me. Okay, so here's the agenda. right? They did their call to order. They said the pledge, roll call. Then there was the public hearing. And then they discussed, reviewed, modified the preliminary budget. And then they voted on number 6 here. They voted not to do this. Instead of adopting it, they voted to put it off. And I guess anybody listen, they didn't actually say when they're going to meet again. And after they did that, the mayor just said, well, now we're going right to adjourn, and ended the meeting basically after a little discussion. I think I just did a Google search real quick. I think according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is the bureaucratic nonsense that governs these meetings, it's not FOI. Robert's Rules of Order is not law. But I think according to Robert's Rules of Order, they could have made maybe a motion to reconsider. I'm not really, maybe you guys know. And they could have just went back to number 5 to discuss more. That was very unusual that instead of doing that, they just decided to end the meeting without, as far as I know, setting another meeting date. That could cause problems because I think Derby's up against the deadlines coming up, according to the charter, although there's no real penalties for missing what it says in the charter to adopt the budget by. As we know in Ansonia, they ignore their charter. But Thomas Harmison saying that was an unusual ending. Yes, they could have made a motion to reconsider. I think what'll be complicated now is that since they ended the meeting without setting the next meeting date, you got to give 24 hours notice to the paper that'll advertise this, right? You got to set up a public notice and all that. That didn't happen, so I don't know when the next meeting is. I'm not sure what they're going to do there. I'm sorry, I missed these comments. What came in? Kevin says, oh my God, this budget was all but approved. Then they went line by line item, and now they're going to extend this. Just another board that is showing how dysfunctional they are. They have some very confused individuals on boards. LOL. Amy Lynn Pedanici? Am I getting that right? I apologize, Amy. I just know you use Amy Lynn. I always see your name on the page there. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Wow. Kevin Hazlitt, pretty embarrassing. Rachel Paradiso, is this the thing? Rachel Paradiso, by the way, I worked with Rachel Paradise a million years ago at a newspaper. And for the longest time, I was probably like saying snarky remarks to Rachel Paradiso, thinking it was Rachel Paradise. Because she also had her cousin's name Paradiso. How wild is that? So anyway, is this a thing? Yeah, I mean, it's a Derby budget, by the way. If they had adopted it tonight, it would have lowered the mill rate by 0.4 of a mil, slight mill rate decrease. I guess I got to shut this off and start writing this story. But you saw some of the questions were centered around whether there were requests to take another look at some of the revenue and expenditure line items. Particularly, there was questions raised by the town clerk regarding, I believe, insurance. Sarah Wadomski also raised questions about, and Karen Chemesis, about some of the line items there. One of the big ones was whether the city in the budget as proposed is whether the tax rate collection, the proposed, they said they're going to collect at 99%, whether that's too high, whether that revenue line item is like 100% firm. That was happening. And then you had a couple of people ask the tax board to throw a few more dollars at the Derby Board of Education and Derby Public Schools. Certainly not as not emotional, but there wasn't a big group that had come out as compared to years past. Because keep in mind, these meetings in Derby in particular used to be a lot more contentious. As sort of, obviously there was tension. I think there's political tension clearly happening within the city of Derby, and that's what you heard a lot tonight. It is an election year as well, and there is sort of a long simmering difference of opinion over policy and who has more power in the city of Derby, whether it's the mayor's office. There's a lot going on. I did see some emails. There was emails going around, concerns by Roberto Santos that suddenly the mayor is running the tax board meetings, which is unusual. The mayor basically in years past, I've covered the city since 2009. The mayor never took an active role in Boat, never chaired the meetings. It just wasn't done. But there has been an emphasis since Walt Mayu was hired as chief of staff for Mayor Zekin to basically they're saying we're returning to the charter. We know Derby's been run a certain way for many years, but that was informal, and now the mayor is taking his rightful place during all these meetings. So that's a back and forth that is happening. Rachel Paradiso, also the questions that we're told to send an email to get answers. That isn't unusual. I mean, I am seeing these emails, some of the internal emails that are going between the tax board and the mayor's office. And there is a concern. Yeah, the whole problem with communicating through email, according to the Freedom of Information, I'm not saying this is happening, but the concern is that you have a public discussion of these matters happening. And then behind closed doors, you have arguments happening. There's two meetings, right? There's another deliberation that could be taking place behind the scenes. That's why that is unusual to say, put all your questions in writing and we'll answer it that way. I think last year they did that because the finance director had been on administrative leave at that time. But if I remember correctly, all the questions and answers were put in written form and then included in the agenda packet. Clearly not ideal. I mean, most towns, there is a question and answer that happens to some extent because nobody comes to these budget meetings as it is. So there is some question and answer. So I don't know. There's clearly distrust. I mean, you look at the emails, there's clearly distrust between at least Roberto Santos, who is the chairman of the tax board, and Walt Mayer, the mayor's chief of staff. What is this? An email that reaches a quorum of members and discusses business issues is not allowed under FOI for sure. Yeah, and what's happening here is that Boat has been told if they have questions. My wife just got home. My dog is barking. The Boat members. I mean, you heard it tonight. There was a question from Laura Harris. They asked her last question to be submitted through email. Which, I mean, obviously you can ask any question you want. Doesn't mean you get an answer. But yeah, the whole use of email in Derby does leave me a little uncomfortable because clearly, I mean, I called the FOI commission and talked to their public education officer at the very beginning of this process. They were as close as you can get to violating the FOI Act by sending out, you can't discuss policy through group emails. And I was told if one person had hit reply all, it was a violation of the FOI Act. Derby election is going to get very interesting, probably messy. When does their school budget have to be in by? The whole thing is, I think it's the end of the month for everything. They changed it in the last Derby charter, but I think this all has to be done by the end of the week. So they have stretched it in Derby in the past. They've stretched it to the last minute. I've been to, Derby had at one point, it was under Dr. Tracy. It might have been when the Alliance District first was a thing, because some of like Ansonia and Derby, when Alliance District first became a thing, became excited because the assumption was that you could use that grant money. And then if you're getting $300,000 in Alliance District money, that meant you could reduce your contribution to the schools by $300,000. And I remember Dr. Tracy talking for hours at one meeting about how that's actually not allowed by the law that created the Alliance District meeting. A couple of years later, Ansonia School Board sued the city for doing just that. But my point being, there was one meeting when that was first introduced that I think it went to like 1 a.m. And then I think maybe, was it a Thursday or a Friday? And they were back at it on a Saturday? I don't really remember. Wait, is the meeting over already? Yes, there were 10 people from the public spoke, Julia, and then Roberto Santos asked for more time, and the board voted 7-1 to extend. It was not a concise motion to not vote on it tonight. They voted not to vote, and then the mayor ended the meeting. It seemed like the tax board wanted to discuss some items more. But that didn't happen. It ended, and they didn't reschedule. They didn't schedule when they're going to vote. So I think that'll have to happen at some point. Or maybe Derby will just maybe they're just going to call it a day. They're like, we're done. We'll just become a rogue state. I don't know. Any other questions out there? 10 people spoke. That was that. I'm tired. I've been covering these meetings for 24 years. I feel like there's a limit. The Great Give is next week. I think it's May 3rd and May 4th. Look, I'll be honest here. You want to hear some bias? I was hoping this thing would just be done today, either way, good, bad, or indifferent, and I could write a story tonight and be done with the Derby budget, because I have to get ready for the Great Give. I have to email 100,000 nonprofits. I have to set up a 36-hour live stream, block when everybody can appear. I haven't been able to do that for a number of reasons. So anyway, if you're around next May 3rd and May 4th, or if you're a nonprofit, email me. I'm going to start tomorrow. My point being is you're not going to see a lot of stories from the Valley Indy this week. I have to do the Great Give. Sean Fitch, that was the most ridiculous meeting I have ever heard. David Leonard, wait, May 4th, that's a holiday. Yeah, it's called Give the Valley Indy Money. And maybe, I don't know about them. I was kind of soured on The Mandalorian this year, David Leonard. It's still a good show. But in my view, like those first couple of seasons, the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, when they just concentrated on, The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, it was like the spaghetti Western, right? You remember The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? It was just the man with no name. And now this season, it's as if there are 100,000 men with no name. There's only one Clint Eastwood, right? Chewing on the cigar thing, or whatever the heck that's called. And that was the genius of The Mandalorian. It felt like that. There's just too many Mandalorians, man. Too much. But I'm sorry. I'm also sick. I'm getting some text messages. I'm getting some pushback from some of the comments that the mayor made to Jen DeRoche. It did get a little prickly, I guess, there. Sean Fitch, David needed to watch Picard. Uh-oh, there's fighting words going on in the chat between Star Wars and Star Trek fans. That's great. That's why I love this job. I'm talking about Derby Boat and the sort of political fighting that's taken place. And in the chat, 2 guys are talking about, what is that? LLAP. That's some kind of Star Wars thing? Don't be sending codes that are going to get me banned from Facebook, David Leonard. I don't need that heat. Amy Lynn, like how he said she easily confuses. Yeah, there's some feedback coming from text messages of people not appreciating that comment by the mayor. Sean Fitch says, live long and prosper. David Leonard says, live long and prosper. This is so confusing. But it's just saying it's so rude. Tensions were definitely running high. But I guess if there's no further questions, I guess I'll call it a night. I'll try to write this up. But again, it's unless I wasn't listening, because I was trying to write stuff down. The only one that voted to proceed tonight was Mike Alberta. He was the one vote saying, let's proceed and adopt the budget. And the way it usually works, from my memory, and my memory could be shot, in Derby, the boat goes through line by line every aspect of the budget. They adopt the preliminary budget, then they have a public hearing. And then the last couple of years, I think every year that Zekin's been mayor, they have adopted the final budget immediately after the public hearing. But if memory serves, they also went through line by line, because things could change. Just because you adopted your preliminary budget, Derby definitely would change it. Usually it was the school board. The school board was always, the Board of Education budget has always been in Derby since I've been covering it 2009 as the most talked about part of the budget. So I was expecting them to go through line by line and have a discussion over the Board of Education budget, but that didn't happen. But people are saying, thank you. Oh, thank you. No, thank you for keeping me company. But we'll see. I'll try to find out. I've been having a hard time keeping up with stories. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Just a lot going on, as happens when you get old. But I'm going to write this story, and I'll try to let people know when the next meeting is. Julia Romano Soda, that was the process when I sat on boat line by line. Yeah, they did do that last week. They were talking at the beginning of this meeting of maybe just doing the bottom line adoption, which would have struck me as unusual because you would have, I don't know. You know what, though? I didn't watch the whole 3-hour meeting last week. I don't know what the members of the boat, what their feeling is towards the education budget. Karen Kimmy says, maybe you can get some of the questions answered. No, I'm the last person. Are you kidding? Karen, you have a much better chance of getting anything answered than me. I'm just the bum in the basement. But let me see. If I look over my notes. First speaker was Jim Gilday. He pointed out that the school district is expected to get $400,000 more from the Alliance District, so they're about $200,000 short from what the school board feels is necessary to run the school district last year. Mr. Gilday pointed out all the good things happening in Derby schools, including some year-to-year test scores being up. Derby has performed at a higher rate compared to other schools in the post-pandemic. Derby didn't lose that much because they remained in school a lot. Gilday didn't say that this time. I'm just saying in general. He did note that the middle school principal in Derby was recently named Middle School Principal of the Year. Then Karen Chemesis spoke. She said the education budget, you have to at least give them enough money to carry or to cover the salary increases that have been negotiated on good faith labor contracts. Karen asked whether pensions would be fully funded. She noted she hasn't gotten an answer in a couple of years, and last year heard it was 70% funding. She wants it 100. And she also, and this was a theme, one of the themes was about utility increases. She noted that there doesn't, in some certain areas, Derby isn't projecting utility rate increases. She sort of red flagged that. And then about capital projects, how there doesn't seem to be any money allocated for capital projects in Derby. Somebody else, and then it was Karen, you also said ARPA. A lot of times in Derby, they have ARPA, the COVID money from the federal government. And Karen asked for an accounting list of projects. How is that money going to be used? Derby and Ansonia haven't really, they've talked about it, and I guess they answer if asked. Seymour has, I believe, printed a whole list and went over in public and held meetings they held like forums on what, asking the public how the money should be used. Derby and Ansonia taking a different task. Karen, you also said, then Sarah Wadomski talked about whether the tax rate, collection rate of $99, whether that was overly optimistic. Someone said, I don't remember who it was, somebody mentioned that, you don't want a tax increase, but you got to be careful. Because Derby has, one of the things that happened after Derby got in all that financial trouble with whatever you want to call it. Every time I describe it, I get angry emails telling me I'm not accurate. So I'm just going to call it the Derby screw up that resulted in us having to pay more taxes. I live in Derby. Whoever's fault it was and whatever exactly happened. One of the things that came out in their plan to recovery was that Derby had this habit of, during election years, no tax increase, and then non-election years, big tax increase. So like the ratings agencies were looking at this, were like, well, this is just political. You're just giving zero tax increases on election years to get reelected, and then you're socking people a year later. So that is a thought, like that's come up legitimately at past Derby meetings. Sarah Wadomski questioned whether sanitation, insurance costs, utilities, and capitals were being underfunded. George Katika, member of the Board of Education, asked the boat to fund the school district, throw a few more dollars at him. Pastor Dennis Mariquin of a Derby church, a local Derby church whose name escapes me at the moment, offered his services to spread the word about these meetings, which don't get a lot of public participation. Tara Hyder spoke, asked the board to fully fund education. She took exception, and she has said this before, to Walt Mayhew's assertion that the Alliance District designation by the state actually hurts the school district by giving it a bad rap, essentially. Tara Hyder is married to Alderman Rob Hyder, for the record. And then you had Mark Garofalo talk, who I had I had already mentioned previously. All right, that's it. Tom Harbison, Derby screw up. Could you be more specific? The thing where I don't know, I'm going to get angry talking about it. It's when they double booked school grant money, where they double counted the expenses. So they ended up with a multi-million-dollar hole in the budget, and everybody blames everybody for it. Including, I guess it was my fault, but it was the thing where they came out and they said there was this problem, and then a week later, the explanation of the problem changed, and I still honestly don't understand to this day exactly what happened. But that's why Derby goes to MFAC. Oh, I know I'm joking. You son of a! That's it, Harbinson. I quit.